Well, hello there, runners. It's Coach Joe and
Coach Dean.
my good friend Coach Dean. We're still here in Sacramento, California. Beautiful morning. The World Masters Athletics 2011 competition. And first, before we get into the topic, we were just reveling in
Marveling,
the
yes.
people. An event they take the people over in their events, and what was in that event?
Finland, Australia.
Denmark,
Australia. We saw Latvia, Lithuania, Mexico, Great Britain, and France.
and 2 lumberjacks.
The lumberjacks.
Sorry, that was for the
See
NAU,
the last issue.
The NAU faithful.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I think that the Pacific Lutheran is. The University of Puget Sound are the loggers.
The loggers.
That's pretty
Not
close.
quite lumberjacks.
Not quite lumberjacks, but UPS. We would consider throwing a reference out for you. A little shout out to the loggers too. First year in college, I spent at UPS. We had track shorts that on the back said logs. Speaking of logs and equipment, picking your sport is our topic today. That's a good segue.
Oh, that was just Let's.
It was brutal, even for me.
Yeah.
No, we were considering how do you pick which event you do.
Yeah.
A lot of people just assume that as you get older, the challenge for runners is the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Go do the marathon. People say to me all the time, they say, what are you racing this week? I say, 5K. They go, say, why would you do a 5K? I mean, you could run a 5K in your sleep. That's not a challenge for you. But it really misses the point, doesn't it? Because, it's not like you're jogging. Or not like I'm jogging.
Right.
But what about the mile?
Yeah.
Very painful. What about the steeplechase?
Ouch.
The ultra marathon? Triathlons?
Yeah.
Maybe it's ballet dancing. Who knows? But, I mean, how do you pick an event?
Well, I'll tell you, I think one of the things we have to acknowledge is some of the common patterns that we have in life. We're looking at lifelong running here. And so, some of us maybe ran in high school, took 30 years off, and now we're back to running. Typically, we start out, not a track, go to a road race. Yeah. We might start at 5Ks. Then there are those who might have run in high school and college and, got to a pretty good level, and then they took some time off. There are others, such as myself. I went high school, college, but then I continued road racing after that, and I gravitated far away from track for a number of years. So I went 5Ks, 10Ks, and marathons, and then only later on came back to track. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different ways of looking at this as trying to find where you fit.
And even outside of track, I mean, many people today are getting into running through. They start with the half marathon or the marathon through charity training programs, or the road race, the 5,000, the 10,000 that somebody has, the 5K or 10K that somebody has pulled you off to do on a Saturday or whatever. And they may not. That may be your introduction to running. However you come into the sport, the question is then, where do you land in terms of your ability? Yeah. My focus for when I was young was fast, short and fast. I ran 5,000, did sprint triathlons, things. I did what most people did, moved up to the marathon. I've been running marathons for years, but have been moving back to shorter distances lately because I think it's fun. Yeah. It's really challenging. It's really hard when you run them as hard as you can. It's 16 minutes of pain, not 2.5 hours of pain, but it's it's definitely a different experience.
And to address those people that, like you mentioned, why would you do a 5K? That's just so you can do it in your sleep. No.
Effort.
If it's true that you're really racing it, then these are all-out efforts, just like a marathon. But the big difference is recovery, however. Yeah. You do a hard marathon, and you're looking at weeks recovery, maybe months, depending on how bad you trash yourself. Whereas you do a mile race and do it all out, it hurts. But you know what? 3 days later, you're really raring to go again. You could probably even race another mile again within just days. 5K, week, at most 2 weeks, you're 100% recovered. You're ready to race again.
Absolutely.
So the nice thing about going down in distance is you can do more of them. So if racing is your thing, and you enjoy that competitive atmosphere, drop down and explore your speed. Explore how fast you can go. And if you're truly pushing it, there's a challenge there.
There is absolutely a challenge. In fact, I was reading Jack Daniels' running formula the other day. I was looking something up. It's a great book. If you don't know it, it's really it's like a technical manual for figuring out your pace. And his characterization that I loved was in the middle distance races. He called it 5K to 15K. He said that the difference, he said in almost all races you're going to feel fatigue and pain, but in those races, what he said was different is that the pain may be intense, he says, from start to finish. And that's really true. It's like if you're going all out in a mile or a 5,000, if you're really pushing it, it's a challenge.
It is.
You know? So, but we're not trying to say this to scare people away.
No.
It's more to say, if you don't try these different things and try them at different levels in your careers, you know, if you do a 5K on your way up and you're just learning the distance, it's going to be very different than if you've been running 10Ks or half marathons and then you move down and start saying, can I go faster?
Right.
Is this something I'm talented at? Do I like the pacing, the way this type of event feels?
Right.
They're very different.
And I think to touch on your thing about the discomfort of these events, we might have even had an episode long ago. Well, what was the event that hurts the most?
Yeah, we did. Pain episode.
You know, it also has to do with your mentality. Everyone's wired different. And so some of us can tolerate a certain kind of intense pain for a short period of time. And others, no, I can grind and let it have that dull ache, pain that just grinds away at you, but I can tolerate for hours. So we are, you know, created differently that way, that we're wired differently. So, but until you explore the different events, there's no telling. One thing like we can tell you on the scientific end is until you get good at the shorter events, in other words, get fast, you really can't totally explore how good you're going to be at the longer ones.
That's true.
The base speed has to be there. This goes all the way up to Olympic level. Olympians who are in the Olympic marathon, these are 4-minute milers.
Yeah.
They're not slow.
No.
Who gravitated up. They didn't go to the marathon, get good at and do 204, 5, 6 marathons, and then say, oh, I'm a 4-minute miler.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Most of the champions.
Yeah.
Hallie, Sammy.
Yeah. All of them.
Rest in peace,
Rest in peace, right.
All these folks, you look at their backgrounds, they were junior cross-country champions,
Sure.
milers, you know, that's where it starts.
Right.
Is the shorter distance.
So exploring that will actually feed your distance addiction,
Look at
if
this
you wish.
guy. Okay, there's a guy warming up over here, and he is
dude.
moving and shaking.
Yeah.
And he's got nice form.
Beautiful.
I mean, that is beautiful form.
Yeah.
We wish you could have seen that because...
Take our word for it.
That guy's like textbook.
Yeah, he is.
Great legs. Wow, and he's still going. This is like a long sprint warm-up we're seeing. He might be running the marathon tomorrow. Warming up. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, just back on topic here, you know, we've been talking a lot about moving down, but there's all these other crazy events too.
Yeah. So you can
We
go...
talked about the steeplechase.
Steeplechase is something, you know, in college, typically if you were kind of okay in the 1,500, but you had guys in front of you who weren't quite that fast, or you're like that number 3 or 4, 5,000 meter guy, good, but not quite. What did they do? They put you in the steeple, and that's how I got put in the steeple. And it's a very unique event, but it takes a very unique mentality to get good at it. But it's a total challenge, and believe me, when you're done with that, you're done. It's a tough event, and the steeplechase is typically 3,000 meters in the open divisions, and so just about 2 miles, and it's very, very difficult. Of course, the other direction to go then is exploring it, which is perhaps more traditional or more of a pattern that we see is much longer.
Right.
So
Longer
people, once they've done a marathon, and say, well, why don't we incorporate that into an Ironman?
Right.
Or I've done 26. Let's do a 50K or 50 miler, 100 milers, 24-hour races, and such like that. So there are other ways to explore.
Yeah.
Again, depending on your mentality. 24 hours of running to me is like, thank you. Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah, he has said that to me. I remember when I did my first Ironman, he said that. He's like, I could never do that. And I'm like,
12
really?
hours of out there.
I was not out there for 12 hours.
All right, 10. 15?
No.
Oh,
them fighting words. Pal.
That's okay.
I'm gonna get lumberjack on him.
Yeah, he knows
shortly.
that if I were to do the Ironman, it would make a very bad name for it because I'd drown in the first phase, the first leg, and we wouldn't have to worry about my cycling or biking.
There you go. Yeah.
Cycling or running.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, one thing with the ultra distance races, sometimes we've seen people that, you know, some of the female runners in particular, you know, some of the greats were, you know, just shocked. They were not super great runners with shorter distances. They went out and win 100-mile races overall, right? Because their particular body composition, their mental fortitude makes them really great at running ultra distances. So, I mean, it's a good example. The other thing to think about is, is it road, trail, track, multi-sport?
Yeah, mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's just such a lot of different things to consider. And what I do is, I've said this before, is I always pick something for a year. And I say that's going to be my focus this year. I've had a year where I did trail racing, had a year where I did ultras, and Ironman. This year I decided to do duathlon
and then track
and short. I mean, in duathlon it's 5,000s on either end. So I've been focused on short distance races, and it's been really fun. And every time I've done this, I've had a great time.
So I think our advice to you would be that have some variety in your running. I think it'll infuse some excitement in whatever your specialty is. Yeah. Even if you are a marathoner or whatever, try these other things out. If you're starting to get a little bit plateaued or bored with what you do, don't just sit there and enter the same old 5K. Yeah. Enter the uphill one, the downhill one. Do something of variety, different distances, different events. Try out track.
Yeah,
and see what it can do for you. Maybe go back to the good old days and try the 100 meters. Just to see, and have some fun with this, because that will help this become your lifelong activity and give you some excitement along the way.
Yeah. Go try something. Yep. That's our advice. Try chopping down a tree like a good lumberjack would. I just do it to see the look on his face. Anyway, I hope that you have a good look on your face and enjoyed this gripping discussion. And I think for that, we're going to leave it. We're signing off from Sacramento, from the World Masters Athletics, and we hope to see you again soon. So thanks for joining us.